Star Citizen's patch 324 cycles introduced cargo hauling contracts, and latterly the Zeus CL cargo ship. The two would seem natural partners, and so it makes sense to put the Zeus CL through its paces with a little cargo hauling. I'm Forrester, and this gameplay video does just that, taking out the Zeus CL and using the onboard tractor beam to move some boxes from A to B. To keep the overall length of the video down, some of the footage, such as quantum hops, have been sped up, and those parts are clearly marked as such, but otherwise this video is a full session end to end. And this is intended to be a gameplay video rather than a guide, although there is a cargo hauling tutorial available on the channel if that's what you are hoping for. So, without further ado, let's get started. And as we're in the hangar, we'll immediately start with speeding up the Zeus CL coming up the cargo ramp, grabbing the contract, and then moving the ship over towards the cargo elevator. A little bit of juggling around to check it's in the optimal place, and there we have it. Then down across to the cargo elevator, bringing the cargo up, still in ×12 speed, because what I really wanted to show here was using the co-pilot seat and the tractor beam. So once you're in your co-pilot seat, you wait for the server to catch up. There is a handy button that you can use to open and close the exterior, which will deploy the ramp, and then of course to use the tractor beam. And this is it, folded neatly into the back of the Zeus CL. The tractor beam is in the perfect place to be able to grab cargo from the cargo elevator and throw it onto the cargo bay in the back. The slight challenge here is that the Zeus CL doesn't make the best use of its cargo grid. It's absolutely fine for if you're cargo hauling and loading it automatically, but actually in a situation like this where you've got 108 SCUs of cargo in these kind of bigger, larger 8 SCU boxes, the Zeus doesn't like that quite so much, so you need to do a little bit of creative loading, let's say. There's space aboard, but it's not on the cargo grid. Still, this is peak patch 324 tractor beam gameplay, so carry on loading up these stims. So this is just a quick contract to go up to Port Tressler, grabbing the cargo, taking it up into orbit from New Babbage, so it's a very short hop for this first cargo trip. It'd be great if there was a feature, maybe this is a feature and someone will tell me about it in the video comments. It would be great if there was a feature that allowed you to say, ignore the cargo grid. Because in a situation like this, I know that the cargo isn't all going to stick to the grid, there just isn't room for that. Well, there isn't room for that on the grid. So it'd be great if there was a little button that you could press that just stopped it from snapping to the grid temporarily until you press the button again. Still, can't beat a bit of tractor beams moving some boxes around. So at this point, I'm going to move all of the boxes to within a short distance of the Zeus. And because I am pushing the possibilities of this ship with this cargo run, which has got a lot of these 8 SCU boxes, I'm going to hop out and load up in person just to try and get the last of the boxes all happily stored on the ship. Perhaps not quite firmly installed, but happily installed. Always carry a handy tractor beam multi-tool for such scenarios. And you can see here, these boxes have snapped to the grid. There's so much wasted space on the side to give component access that, I don't know, I feel like maybe it's better used for component access, but it's a cargo ship. When you use the space for cargo. There we go, I think that's all we can do from the cargo bay. Thankfully, this is where the multiple entry and exit points come in handy. We can leave via the ladder, go back out and around to the cargo bay and move things around as appropriate. Of course, it all just wants to snap to the grid all the time. There we go. So as you can see, there is plenty of room on here for that whole extra row of cargo. But of course, while the grid is in use, it just wants to use the grid. We'll get it all aboard, fear not, we'll get it all aboard. See, a situation like this, where it's just desperately trying to snap to the grid, I'd love a button that says no. Please don't. And maybe there is a button. Maybe I just don't know it, and I'm about to find out as you all type it in the comments for me. This is getting a little bit tedious now as I'm trying to get this one box into that gap that is big enough for the box. Without snapping it to the grid and knocking myself out at the same time, please. There we go. There we go. You see here, like even on this side, there's still plenty of space. It feels like such a shame. This was the issue with the C1 Spirit as well. People can fit a lot more into that ship. Well, if you didn't have to get out via the ramp at the back, at least you could fit a lot more in. But of course the grid says no. And I can see how you'd want to have access to all of the components, but I don't know. There we go, 3 more boxes to go. We're getting nice and full up. We have got the extra height that we can use for this flat box. Because of course, these are only 2 SCU tall. And that part of the Zeus can happily accept 3 SCU tall. Not a very common measurement, but it is a measurement. And here we go, last crate. A little bit of work. There we go, pretty much done. So I know this has been quite a few minutes now of moving cargo around, but I wanted to show kind of the mix of the tractor beam on the ship, the tractor beam multi-tool, and how it's not always as simple as snapping to the grid. But how useful this ladder is when you're not doing that. There it is. All our lovely cargo. So you can see as well, the height isn't particularly well used in a scenario such as this, because there's 3 SCUs tall of crates that can be stored in the cargo bay, only ever using 2 SCUs really of that, except if you've got those 4s or 2s or 1 SCU crates as part of the hauling contract, but more often than not, I think at this kind of size, the medium cargo tends to be 8s. So you can fit it all aboard. The Zeus will take it all, but it won't be snapped to the grid. As you're flying around, you'll hear it shaking around. It works for delivering 108 SCU of stims, but probably wouldn't work quite so well of taking, I don't know, 108 SCUs of glass jars or something like that. You'd probably want to snap that to the grid.
Thank you. Please visit again.
We'll jump into ×12 speed as we make the hop across and up to Port Tressler. And then wait for a landing bay to be assigned. And here we go. Nice gentle approach into the hangar. And once again have the ship aligned for removal of the cargo. Another happy landing. Trying to see if that back door is open. All of the other doors are open, so I'm going to have to assume that it is. I have a handy keybind on my control panel, which is open all doors, and given that all of the component bays and the internal doors are open, I can only assume that that keybind has worked. I can't actually see past the cargo to see whether it has. And I suppose failing that, you can also say open the exterior. Very handy having that button on this station for cargo hauling. There we go. Now the hard part is loading up the cargo bay. Actually unloading it is very easy, even with the onboard tractor beam. And I suppose if you're a little bit more skilled, you can load up with the onboard tractor beam as well. We can try that for the next haul. But there we are, ×12 speed, unloading all the cargo. You can see it was very simple, very easy, with the tractor beam that's on the back of the ship, and we'll send it down for our payout. Mission complete. But of course you don't just do one cargo hauling mission, so now it's time to have a look through and see if we can select our next cargo hauling contract. There are plenty to choose from. And so I'm going to ×12 it as I'm looking through for a good medium-sized contract. They all seem to be much of a muchness, but I'm looking for anything that's got like a nice optimal route, ideally starting here in Port Tressler. And it's not the most optimal, but it's a nice excuse to go to Terra Gateway. So the gateway stations, they can have cargo hauling routes that come out from them. More often than not, they don't. This is a nice easy loading exercise. Not going to need to use the big tractor beam for this. But yeah, the gateway stations, they can have deliveries from them, but they often have deliveries to them. But this is a nice excuse to go there and visit, and we'll go via Everest Harbour to pick up these goods. And so I've just taken a tiny contract to drop these goods off at Everest. Figure if I'm going to Everest to pick up the goods, if there's anybody that wants anything taken there, I'll take it. And it was just these 8 SCUs, and that's fine. It will, after all, cover the costs, cover my fuel costs. And I guess that's the other thing to remember about this. The cargo hauling contracts aren't necessarily meant to be the most profitable cargo contracts. Traders are taking more of a risk with their credits, so it makes sense that you would expect traders to make more money. I'm taking literally zero risk to do this, and so it makes sense that the payout is more modest. So we leave the hangar, bring up the gear, engage the quantum drive.
Thank you.
There we go, times 12 speed as we head across to Hurston. It's a kind of bittersweet scenario where all of the quantum drives in game are currently the same speed. I liked having a very fast quantum drive on everything, but the speed they've chosen isn't terrible. And there it is, a nice view of the Zeus CL with Hurston behind. A little quantum hop as we make our way across to Everest. Nice little ship. So into the hangar, back up all the way through to the freight elevator, and I've just used a multi-tool to move that stuff down. So I figured I need to go to the freight elevator anyway. So here we have it, 95 SCUs this time of agricultural supplies. And this time I'm going to use the onboard tractor beam to throw everything to the back. It seems one of the things that helps with this is getting the crates right to the back of either side of that walkway where the door is, because as soon as you can get them back there, it messes up the grid, and as soon as you've messed up the grid, the auto snap stops wanting to try and work. So once you've got those first two crates positioned, it does make things a little bit easier. And actually, the more that I use this tractor beam, it makes me want to find a better way of controlling it. So at the moment, I use this tractor beam in the same way that I would use a gun turret aboard the ship. So I use my mouse, no V-joy or anything like that. My brain struggles to deal with the V-joy type movement. So it's just constant like moving around of the mouse. And actually, maybe this would be better on a gamepad or something like that for much smoother, consistent movement. You can probably see it's quite jerky as I'm using my mouse and moving it around. So perhaps this is one in the future where I might switch to using the gamepad. That could be a good use case for the tractor beam. Plenty of room for these 95 SCUs on board. These medium cargo contracts, the ones that are in and around 100 SCUs, they seem really well suited for the Zeus CL. You don't tend to use the space above that third SCU of height, so your cargo is always 2/3 of the vertical dimension of the cargo bay, but in terms of the rest of the space, you do have plenty in there. You can usually make it fit. And that's the case here. Juggling things around a little. Having the onboard tractor beams is definitely a help though. Like, doing this with the onboard ship-mounted tractor beam is infinitely easier than when we used to have to use the hand tool to do everything. And yes, arguably we didn't have to do as much when everything was always just automatic cargo, but in theory we still have automatic cargo for trading. I say in theory because it doesn't work in all locations and it doesn't always seem to work, but I say that's probably a temporary issue. There we go, one more SCU to bring. Always feels so much faster to unload the ship than to load it. Try and get that up and above and sat on that box if possible. Oh, that's probably not secure enough. Not having that one flying around. There we go. And then hop back into the pilot seat. What I really should try next time is the co-pilot seat, in theory, will get more control over actually flying the ship. So I should try just doing it all from the co-pilot seat, because then you've got the turret access as well for the tractor beam. Yeah, that's an interesting experiment to run for the future. There we are, nice external shot of the Zeus CL leaving the hangars at Everest. There it is, catching the sun, glint of blue, landing gear down, and then it's across to Terra Gateway. It's been a while since I've been to Terra Gateway. So rather than set a route, I've just jumped across to the nearest moon just to clear the planet. That has the same effect as going to one of the orbital markers and then jumped across from there. And again, just scouring the list of contracts to see if there's anything that is departing from Terra, or Terra jump point I should say. Let's not get too excited about Terra just yet. It's worth adding, my cargo hauling rank at the moment is still just the junior rank. Probably ought to do some more cargo hauling. I guess you can let me know in the video comments if you'd like to see more cargo hauling. I do have a variety of cargo hauling ships in my hangar available to me. The Zeus CL is the newest of those, but I've of course got my favourite C1 Spirit. I have my M2, my Herc, and I even have a Hull C. Not that I'm particularly keen to use it, owing to the fact that it feels quite buggy. No, that's supposed to have improved this patch anyway. So here we are departing from the Terra Gateway station. You'll notice the view has changed a little bit. That's because, many of you know I am a space dad. When I play on the evenings, I tend to have the baby monitor on the go, keeping an eye on everything. And sometimes kiddo wakes up and space dad gotta go space dad. So thankfully that happened whilst I was here and ready. So a slight blip in the gameplay session as I went to deal with that, but gives the opportunity for the ship to reset, to eat some in-game food as well and get ready. So now heading to Pyro Gateway. There's nothing in the cargo bay at this point. I guess I probably could have bought something from Terra Gateway to transfer across to Pyro Gateway, but loading it would have been a pain. So just fly straight across to Pyro Gateway to pick up our next cargo hauling. Do quite like the colour scheme of the ship as well, with the blue and the yellow hazards. I know it's not going to be for everyone, but I quite like it. Stylish. Alright, so head across to the elevator, bring all the cargo up, hop into the co-pilot seats, and then tractor beam to load it all aboard. Once again, prioritizing getting the first boxes on that far side, and it gets simple after that. There we go, done. Cargo loaded. Times 12 speed, wonderful. So here we are, departing the hangar. The doors always seem to move so slow. Is this just me that thinks that? So we'll use that time to get a little external view of the ship happily departing. There we go. This will be one of the last times potentially to see the Pyro Gateway station before it actually genuinely leads to Pyro. At time of recording, there's lots of tests going on of people actually using that jump point, so who knows, maybe in a few weeks that's what we'll see in the live servers. We'll make our way back to Everest Harbour. In the dark, wait for a hangar to be assigned, and it's in, straight for the cargo deck. Or I should say the freight elevator. The cargo deck is something different. And in a case of unloading the boxes, again with the tractor beam on board, that's so much easier. And then head across to the freight elevator, send them down for another successful hauling trip. There we go, contract complete. So, if you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to let me know I should make more similar videos in future, and if you're not yet subscribed, given that you've got this far, you probably want to do that too, so that YouTube will show you more like this in future. Otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.